25th, 2025. Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum, so we can't really have a meeting, but I do see members of the public, so if you'd like to, you took the time to come down here, if you'd like to make public comment, we will listen to any public comment at this time. Yeah, yeah, so please come to the podium. You don't have to yell out. Yes, and if, just state your name. Do we require addresses? I mean, we do it like other.
Name, Dave Heberly. I'm kind of a lifelong resident of Erie and Mill Creek, kind of here and there, in between. Worked at Hammermill for a number of years, an international paper, 23 years. After I got out, my wife kept chasing me around, asking me to go out for, interviews and such. But anyway, I ended up with a small laundromat, which I never was in one before. And I've had that for about 12 or 15 years on East 38th Street. And a little while later, then I got another one, which was on East Granby Boulevard. Okay, so we have two of these self-service laundromats. And about 5 years ago, I went down to Newcastle, Pennsylvania, where our rep is, for equipment, the major equipment, for like a show, one of those shows. And I kind of sat in the back of a room when they had a discussion about something called ozone technology, ozone laundering. And I thought, oh man, this sounds like a real, like a witch doctor kind of thing here. So I kind of was at the back and I listened a little bit to it and got some of the information on it. But later I found out that the rep that owned the company that I bought equipment from actually installed one of these units in his laundromat. So that kind of piqued my interest in it. But anyway, I did a lot of research on it and found that it was a legitimate thing. And there are just, many benefits to ozone laundering versus traditional laundering. It's way better financially. It's way better. It's way more sustainable. Doesn't use hot water. And hot water is a big killer, for costs that people do a lot of laundering at. But anyway, in the last 20 years or so, there was a big push for like wastewater treatment, for using ozone technology for cleaning and disinfecting. And a lot of the places nowadays are going to that, and all the big aquariums that you see like at Atlanta or Kansas City or any of those big, huge ones, New Orleans, they all use ozone treatment to disinfect and keep their water clean. The first commercial companies that were using it, or organizations or institutions, were prisons. Prisons were quite a few years ago, were the ones that most of this equipment was getting to, and they're using it. But I did a lot more research in it, and I joined something called the International Ozone Association out of Sacramento about 4 years ago. And since then, I went to a couple of their conferences, expecting to find other people like myself there, to do with laundering and clothes washing with ozone technology. There weren't any people like that there. I was the only one. And I guess the reason why is because the ozone laundering is such a simple process for that technology that that's kind of like an over and done thing already. But no one almost ever got to the residential end of things. Mainly the manufacturers are building huge facilities, hotels, hospitals, and that's the kind of thing you find this in now. Until like about 10 years ago where some guy actually miniaturized some of the equipment that's involved and figured out how to make a little small unit that wasn't like, $80,000 or, wasn't super expensive. In the last couple years, there have been like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 different manufacturers that started making these. And I got one about 3 years ago and installed at my own house. And since I had already put a whole store laundry system in one of my laundromats, I knew the good things came of that, it made sense. You use way, 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 way less detergent and chemicals. Hardly anything added to it. It's such a strong oxidizer that only a little bit of ozone. The ozone is manufactured right out of the air on site, so that you don't deliver anything, you don't have to handle anything. It's just it's really a great system. But there are all kinds of things like standing in its way. Mostly people don't know what the hell it is. What is it? They've never heard of it, And they also associate ozone with negativity, with, the semantics of ozone. It's like saying, here, I know you got like a problem with blood flow to your heart. Why don't you take this rat poison? Oh no, I mean Coumadin for that. It's the kind of thing. Ozone is like the rat poison of laundering, but when used in the right way, it's really good. So anyway, I've had this one laundromat that for quite a while. I brought you guys in like a little thing that describes it. It's not, I'm not trying to like sell anything here. Trying to get people to understand what this technology does and how it can help.
Have you had hosted show me trips?
Huh?
Have you had hosted show me trips? That's the way to do it. Have people come and see.
Oh yeah, well they have. There are people that use the laundromat like it. And they're
The people who you're trying to get to.
unfortunately the laundromat that I'm talking about, this one just burned down in October. So I'm reconstructing it, and I'll have new equipment in it, and all these people are asking me, well, when's it going to be ready? When's it going to be ready? My only concern is that people just don't understand it, and can you guys take one of these or accept these? And again, that just goes to tell you what the system is. How it works. But I think I've settled it. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say, just trying to, if there are about 3 other people now that have units that are trying them out, and I have a unit that works good. So the ones that I have cost about $400, which isn't too bad.
Is there additives to an existing
What?
washing machine, or is it a separate?
No, you add it, all it does, it hangs. It's about the size of your computer there on the wall right behind it. And what it does, it routes the cold water through the unit that's on the wall, and that is ozonated water that goes into your washer, just like cold water would coming out of the wall. You don't have to do anything different at all with your washer other than set it to cold. So you get a dose of it with the wash, and you get another dose of it when it rinses. So it's a very powerful, you can smell a little bit of whiff of ozone to it, but nothing worse than if you ever went into the boys club down on 7th Street, when you were 4 years old, that you were smelling in there, But anyway, it's just, my name and number, stuff's on here, in case anybody wants to know anything about it. I went to the Erie prison and talked to them about this. They just, they said, thank you, that sounds great. But, again, I get a lot of, not dumb looks,
Well, thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Well, it does look like we have a quorum, so that's all right. I was actually going to cancel the meeting, but it's all right. All right, well, I'm gonna restart the meeting. Except the public comment, we'll skip that part, since we already accepted that. All right, so again, this is City of Erie Environmental Advisory Council. It's Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. Let the record show, we began the meeting at 3:15. Roll call, Campbell's absent. Howden? Carey's absent. Lupo's absent. Mason? Puz present. Tepfer? Let the record show, 4 members are here, so we have a quorum. Associate members, Tarvin? Walmsley, not here. Wedekin, not here. Others, Director Spry. Moore, out there. Heelman, Sarah's not here. Okay. All right. Before we continue, any other item, or let's vote on the acceptance of the agenda. We're not there. We're going to accept the agenda for, are there any changes to the agenda first? Oh, okay, we mentioned them at the end. Yeah, I mean, it'll be after old business if there's anything additional. All right, vote to accept the agenda as presented. A motion. All right, all in favor? Aye, all opposed? So moved.
Do you want me to add that as an agenda item? Because it's not actually on our bylaws.
So we would have to amend the bylaws.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I've seen that in other bylaws where you can have a vote to approve the agenda, but I do send out the agenda usually a week in advance. This time I was a little late, but.
The bylaws state that we have to approve the agenda. That's why I do it.
Oh, the bylaws state it.
Bylaws.
But approve it during the public meeting? Okay,
At least that's how I understood it.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but.
I'll check on it.
All right, next item is the approval of the May 2025 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Do you have a second? All in favor? All opposed? So moved. Public comment, we actually accepted public comment at the beginning. So we'll move, any other public comment today? All right, nope. Sounds good. We'll move on to new business. First item, the EAC presentation / study session to council. All right, so we have not had any contact with city council and by that I mean that I don't know if they're familiar with what we've been working on, so I was going to go to the city council meeting next month. It would be the second city council meeting of the month. It'd have to be a night meeting for me to attend. So basically, I have 5 minutes to present to city council what we've been doing, topics I was thinking of, and of course, I want the EAC comments as well. I'd talk about the LCAP, then our subcommittee initiatives, the plastic bag ban initiative and the dark sky initiative. Any other items to discuss? And again, remember that I have 5 minutes to cram everything into this, so.
Matt, just in terms of timing, so agenda was set, had everything for agenda for the next meeting had to be in yesterday at
Okay.
4 p.m. So what I would suggest, and if you have to do a night meeting, that's fine, is that through me, I can ask the clerk for you to be on the agenda as a presentation. Then you don't have to cram everything into 5 minutes.
I'm fine cramming it into 5 minutes.
Well, maybe others could present with you if you wanted.
That's up to them.
It would be, that way you'll be on the agenda as a presentation, and you not as public comment.
Okay.
Which would most likely, it's just a better, considering this is a city board, a city council, it would be, it's just, yeah, it's more
It also
appropriate.
gives people a chance to know it's coming.
So if you want to, if in that case, the next meeting is on, I think it's the 16th. Yeah, it's the 16th, but it's in the morning. Wait.
16th,
No,
what day?
16th is in the evening.
Okay.
July 16th is in the evening. It's at 6:30 it starts. Caucus is at 6, and then city council is at 6:30.
So what meeting would have been, agenda would have been done last week? Because, the meeting, the first meeting, it's the morning meeting, if it's the first meeting.
Right. So, I mean, that's just one option to give you.
No, I mean, that makes more sense.
Okay.
I don't want to necessarily feel crammed, but I also don't want to do a, 2-hour presentation
No.
on the last year and a half.
You have about 15 minutes in max. They usually prefer you to have 10 to 15 minutes. So that way, and you can do a presentation, we can have slides if we wanted to, only if you wanted to, but it's just, it's a different format than
Okay.
public comment.
And then that's
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
Yeah, we can do a presentation.
So I'll ask to have you as a presentation and see if we can do that for July 16th for council.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate that.
And I'm happy to work with you too, and even if you'd like me to introduce you, and then you can, if that's what you'd like.
And we'll figure it out, we have some
Okay.
time. Regarding topics, like I said, it'd be the LCAP and the subcommittees, anything additional? I think that's pretty much,
Maybe the greenhouse gas inventory was a big part of last year.
I think that's what he meant by LCAP.
yeah,
Okay,
it's kind of like lumping it all as like the umbrella term.
It's the greenhouse gas inventory is the precursor to the LCAP, so yeah, I think that's what he meant by that, yeah.
okay.
So is your committee, assuming it's your committee, the single-use plastic, is it only working on a bottle, a bag ban?
No, it's
So-
single-use plastic ban,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what he
So-
meant,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, just clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So LCAP, single-use bag ban ordinance.
Single-use
Use plastic,
plastics
yeah.
ban.
Okay.
Sup?
And then the dark sky,
The
Yeah.
dark side bird safe,
bird
Yeah, it's not-
safety, yeah.
because glass is just plain.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything additional? All right,
I support you.
well, I also support me. so.
I would plan on being there.
Okay.
Usually there.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely send out an invitation or a reminder for anyone who wants to attend, obviously, you're not required to attend.
But it's true, if somebody wants to know, it's helpful to know who's giving the presentation, if you're a member of the public.
All right, sounds good. Well, no other items on that, or no other comments on that one. We'll move on to the next item. This would be the EAC support letter to the mayor for the LCAP funding. Would you like me to? So I was approached by, I guess, Jackie and Sarah to write a support letter regarding LCAP funding. Before we would move forward, or before I would move forward, since it would be from the Environmental Advisory Council, I would want support of the Environmental Advisory Council
To the administration.
to the administration.
Right.
Yeah, correct. Yes, yeah.
You mean support from us to the concept of you writing the letter?
Well, okay. So basically, we're asked to do a support letter for LCAP funding to the administration. Since it would be from the Environmental Advisory Council, I would not do it without support, or without a vote of the Environmental Advisory Council. So basically, it would be, if I don't have support from the EAC, then it would just be a letter from me.
So can I make a motion?
I was about to.
Yeah.
Go for it. Nope, go for it.
Yeah.
I move that
Before you make the motion, I think the motion should state that the letter is in support, the EAC is in support of the administration using ARP funding to provide money for LCAP.
What she said.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
Yeah, fine.
it's a specific pot of money that we're requesting, that I've come to you to ask for some support around that with the administration and making a decision to help fund the LCAP, considering this was specifically ARP funding for trees. And
Okay, that-
it makes a lot of sense, because that's the first line of defense, is to start planting trees.
Okay, 'cause
For-
Sarah and I were talking about that money yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Then
Yeah, are there
we
any
should-
other questions?
Yeah, that's what, no, okay.
All right, so, as you say, the motion would be.
I make a
Jackie.
motion for the EAC to support to write a letter in support of ARP money being used to fund a consultant to develop a local climate action plan for the city of Erie.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Any thoughts, associate member? Sorry. Yeah, I noticed that. You're like typing actively.
And
Good.
I
Good
will
job.
make sure a copy of the letter is circulated before we would send it off, so the EAC is comfortable with it. We have a rough draft, but. All right, no, we'll close that one. Next item, the EAC support, I guess, for Shell Insight Conference. I'm assuming this would be,
So I had,
yes.
there was a question, I said in the comments to the minutes, which of course we already approved them, but I thought I read in the minutes that Pat wanted us to write a letter requesting somebody speak. And I said, no, I think she wanted us to write a letter requesting that nobody speak. So did that get corrected in the minutes?
Unless you made a
I sent you
comment.
an email. I said, I sent you and Bob, John, an email saying that should be corrected, that was a
Then-
mistake.
Then it must have been corrected, because I have to look back, but usually Mike makes those.
It was like only yesterday or the day before.
Oh, I did not receive anything from you for
Yeah,
that.
it is,
An email did not come through from you.
Okay, well, that, my error for waiting so long, but, so the minutes are actually incorrect. It should say that she was requesting that people not speak at the conference. Isn't that right?
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah, so if
Yes.
you look at the minutes, it says that, I mean, it's just one word. But I believe that's what she would have
Yes,
brought
that's-
up today
yeah.
if she
Yeah, there
were
was
here.
concern because last year, Mayor Schimber was planning to say some words at the conference, and she was looking to ensure kind of earlier on than last year that we communicate to the City of Erie administration that we are in support of nobody speaking, in support of the Shale Conference.
So do you
yeah.
feel comfortable making a motion in Pat's absence?
Before we do that, if I recall from what Sister Pat said, there was a couple items in that she was requesting regarding the Shell Conference, which one was, like, no one to speak at it, but the other one was to let the convention center know that there's public access and that people are allowed to protest there because it's open to the public. I don't think that's our prerogative to enforce that, but I have no issues supporting the fact that no one should speak at the Shell Insight Conference.
Yeah, there were two requests.
Well, that's one opinion,
What's that?
that it's not our place.
Well, we're not an enforcement arm of the city, so we have no right to tell somebody.
Well,
About their property.
maybe we could just remind them that it's legal to be there.
Again, that's not the EAC's prerogative to enforce private covenants and deed restrictions, or lack thereof, or easements.
Publicly funded property, I don't know about.
But again, it's not the EAC's responsibility to enforce that.
Okay, so I'll put up a motion to support the request that the EAC encourage city, I guess we can only do city, we don't have a right to encourage county, state, or federal representatives. So to encourage city representatives to turn down any invitations to welcome members to Erie and/or speak at the conference.
I would not have an issue adding any local representatives,
Local. Yeah, she
Yeah.
didn't ask for local, but you're right. We can, to encourage,
like any of the city,
Yeah.
state reps.
Invitations to speak.
at the conference, to welcome members to Erie and/or speak at the conference.
So like Chris Groner, as a city sort of employee, he wouldn't be speaking either, right? Under this recommendation. I mean,
All we're doing is encouraging them,
Right.
not,
Yeah.
we're encouraging them. So
Right.
we're basically saying, I mean, our job as an advisory council, right, is to advise of our perspective, or we are representatives of the city of Erie, so always keeping that in mind when I say our perspectives, I mean our perspectives as residents within the city of Erie and understanding how people within the city of Erie feel on this issue. We are advising city representatives to basically not support the conference by not presenting and speaking at the conference.
Before you take a motion on that, I think you need to go back to the minutes, because if there's a change in the minutes, then you're going, I don't know if you can redact what you just voted on, but I have to change the minutes. So you're going to have to, or you can make a motion to adopt the minutes with the change on there. Sorry, because
That's fine.
I don't know if you have to,
I
Go
would like
ahead.
to make a motion to.
Hold on, hold on. I don't know if you can eliminate the motion that you made prior to and just make a new motion.
Regarding the minutes?
Regarding the minutes and the change before you make a motion to
First,
support.
we.
Rescind,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
redact, thank you.
rescind.
Rescind.
So first, we need a motion to
To rescind.
rescind our approval of the minutes.
know about
Yes.
rescind.
And a second and a
That's
vote.
right.
And then
I
we need a
second.
motion to amend.
I
All right.
second the motion
That's
to
right.
rescind the minutes that were
Nobody's made the
approved.
motion.
Oh, I moved.
I will make the motion
Thank
to
you.
rescind the motion to approve
How did
the
you
minutes.
get?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So
Just
moved.
put rescind, yeah.
Now,
I-
on to the approval of the May 2025 meeting minutes with the
Right.
stipulation, not the stipulation, but the correction that Freda mentioned, that to remove the word, or
No,
is
just
that
put the word, insert the word not.
yeah, to add the word not to attend the Shell conference.
Right.
I make a motion to accept the amended May 2025 meeting minutes.
Second.
All opposed?
Thank you.
All opposed? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so now we're on to the Shell Insight Conference motion, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So we're going to tease apart the two requests that Sister Pat made. The first request was to encourage city, county, state, and federal representatives to turn down any invitations to welcome members to Erie and/or to speak at the conference.
Why did you not vote on it at the last meeting?
So she said she was going to write a letter. And this, which I assumed was what she had sent to us, but this is not, I thought Sister Pat was going to give us a letter that basically we would read and say, yeah, we agree, you can sign this as being from the EAC, and that this letter was going to be sent to the City of Erie administration. This is not what this is.
But if we wait until August, it's a little late to expect somebody to turn down.
We have July, but yes,
Right,
When is the
that's true.
conference, in September?
Yep.
September,
do
September
it at the-
16th, 17th, and 18th.
I was under the impression that she was gonna write a letter too.
Yeah,
It was in the minutes from last, yes. month,
yeah,
but
okay.
not to the letter.
Okay.
No, I mean, so this is what Sister Pat wrote, which is not exactly a letter. I mean, it kind of starts as though it's a letter. I work with a local community committee that is planning, oh no, she's not talking about the EAC, she's talking a separate committee.
So can we just encourage her, can we make a motion for her to ask her to write a letter doing this?
I mean, I think the motion would be to the EAC support a Shell Insight Conference letter to what was stated, I think, 3 minutes ago.
But I mean, given the conversation, it seems like that letter should not include the second of the two requests.
That would be my suggestion.
I also, she's asking about state and federal and all that
Yeah,
kind
I
of stuff,
said
and
that those,
can't-
we don't have
Right,
a
so
role.
I guess
So we can
my-
say local and city officials.
My thought would be that it should be limited to
Yeah, what we have.
city officials
Yeah.
and, departmental, whatever, but
Well-
anybody that works for the city.
Yeah,
I'd say local
that's
is
all we
okay,
have.
because there are people we give money to that aren't city employees. We're not telling them, we're just sort of mentioning it.
I guess, but we really, I mean, we are the City of Erie Environmental Advisory Council, so I don't know, can somebody name a local official that would fall outside of that would fit?
Well, the chamber,
Your mission is to advise the city of Erie.
Yeah.
That's all we
So
can do.
you're working outside of your
Whatever.
parameters
That's
by
what I-
doing that.
yeah.
And I would not encourage
And
that.
I don't think the EAC should be sending letters to the
No.
Chamber of Commerce.
Right, exactly.
I think the I think a letter to the mayor asking him or any of his department
well,
heads
it
or
would also
whatever.
include the council.
I was going to make
Yeah,
that
council's
suggestion.
fine, but I don't
Right,
think
but
it should include I
Right.
don't think we should be
Anything-
doing
But a letter
anything.
to the mayor wouldn't reach the council necessarily.
CC the council.
Yeah.
We can direct, not necessarily
Yeah,
even
all you have
CC.
to do is copy the council, include the
Yeah.
council in the letter,
Yeah.
and send them a copy of it.
So, do we need to make a motion for that, or somebody needs to say to Sister Pat,
Get on the
can
stick.
write,
I guess if the EAC is going to sign this letter, then we need to vote on it. If it's just going to be Sister Pat, then that would be.
well, Sister Pat can do what Sister
Yeah.
Pat wants to do, but I'm saying with regard to, I mean, so the request that Sister Pat has provided to us, do we have to make a motion on so it's actually two requests, right? So we're all in agreement that the first request has to be at least augmented to just encourage the city and its representatives, elected officials to turn down any invitations to welcome members to Erie and/or speak at the conference.
What about employees? Somebody from Public Works?
Anybody who works in the city of Erie,
Yes.
basically to encourage the city, its elected officials and employees to turn down any invitations to welcome members to Erie and/or speak at the conference. Yes? But do we have to make a motion with regard to this
Well,
request?
we made a motion for the letter for the LCAP because it is actionable item. So I would say yes,
Yeah.
unless it's already been, was it voted on at the
No.
last meeting?
No.
Okay, so then, yes, I would suggest making a motion, again, for the same kind of support
To-
letter.
okay,
Yes.
that we can
So
write a
they-
letter.
So
Okay.
there's an action item,
Okay.
there's action taken.
And then the second request with regard to the Board of Directors, to notify the Board of Directors. I agree with Matt that we don't have the authority to notify the Board of Directors.
So I thought we've already decided not to do that.
We have.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
we were all.
Yeah, I
okay.
think the second part should be, we just have to, we just can't do it.
Well,
Do
okay.
you know if Sister Pat reached out instead of to the board of directors, but to Gus Pine? I mean, he's the one who's the executive
Events.
director of Erie Events. So
I don't know.
Board of directors of Erie
Convention
Bayfront
Yeah.
Convention Center.
Right.
I mean-
I would suggest, and I can speak to Sister Pat on the side, that if she's worried that she should reach out to Gus Pine and mentioned, if they're planning to be protesting there during the conference, that she reach out to them and notify them of their presence. And
Yeah,
that would
in
make a lot of
advance.
sense, yes.
And then we had also, I think, last time told her to, didn't we, like, to submit something to somebody?
To Rocco.
Yeah,
Mr. Rocco,
to- yeah.
There was a
Right.
suggestion
It
that
was a
they get a, that they get a
Yeah.
permit, whether
A
one was
per-
actually needed or
Or
not.
not, that's right.
Sarah
Yeah.
Kilman had
Sarah,
mentioned
yeah, I
that.
think
Yeah.
Sarah
Yeah, I can,
That's right.
suggested
I
that.
can
Yeah.
reach out to Sister Pat and suggest that to her,
Mm-hmm.
both for Gus Pine and for a permit through the city of Erie.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
that's
So then
appropriate.
I will make a motion for the EAC to write a letter of support that encourages to the mayor's office and elected officials to encourage city officials and any employees to turn down any invitations from the Shale Gas Conference to welcome member. No, this is like, I'm trying to make this concise and I'm not doing a good job. To turn down any invitations to welcome members to the conference and/or to speak at the Shale Conference.
Good job.
Sounds good. Second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Okay.
Then
Are you
we'll
going
have
to
to
write
approve-
that letter too, Matt?
That's on my
That was
letter.
gonna do it.
That's, okay, so Sister
I mean,
Pat Hester.
I mean,
All
I
right.
can always help. I don't have an issue with that. All right, on to old business. Subcommittee updates. I guess the first one would be the single-use plastic initiative.
I'm just going to do that every time now because it's fun. We met, we reviewed the materials that we have put together, and so we have a one-page kind of information. I think I shared it last time. I made a couple of typo changes on that. That's all been approved. We did also talk about the questionnaire, which we had a hard copy questionnaire, and then we had this Google form, and we were like, nobody's going to do both of them, so we collapsed them into a slightly longer hard copy questionnaire that's front and back, and I have sent it around to the committee, and I think we kind of finalized it. There was some conversation, so we'll bring it up at the next meeting just to make sure everybody's okay with it, but it seems like we have a questionnaire that's ready to go, and the idea is that we have that, and when we're going around talking with people, we're asking a common set of questions, and we're getting responses, and we're getting data. So that, and I've almost written it like a script so that in between questions, we're making statements in there. So it's just to create some uniformity since we have about 6 people now that are part of the group. And then we were creating, Jenna started a Excel file, a list of organizations and businesses that we wanted to go speak with. She had started that in Excel. She moved it over to a Google Drive so that she could share it out with the group and get more input from people. So it wasn't just all on her. So she had done that. I don't know where the status of that is because, to be honest, I haven't been paying attention. but I know she shared it out. And then we assigned some work to a couple other members with regard to kind of finding out about how these things are enforced in other communities, how franchises work into this situation. So we'll be, and then Molly is going to Lancaster in July, and she's going to reach out to, because they're one of the communities that have passed one of these ban, so she's going to talk with a representative there. So
Is
we
this
have,
just plastic bags? in the-
no, it's plastic bags, it's utensils, which includes straws, and it's expanded polystyrene takeout containers to include coffee cups and clamshells. But expanded polystyrene, so it doesn't include, unless we change the current language, it doesn't include the polystyrene clear clamshells that are frequent. So we can choose to just say polystyrene instead of expanded polystyrene.
I'd love to see you do the whole thing, because there's
Yeah.
so much of the clear stuff out there.
Yeah. So that'll be part of the conversations when we're talking with people, I think, to get their kind of feedback on that. But basically, I think we're kind of poised, where in July, when we have our next meeting, we'll be ready to start going and talking with people. Kind of the timeline that I've presented to the group is that we really don't want to put anything forward to the city council in terms of them setting up a study session until probably definitely after the election, but probably not until the new year, because you have turnover. So, yeah.
And Sam, I think that it would, before you actually go out and start talking to people, I think we need a few touch points
Okay.
internally.
Okay.
One of them could be the council,
Mm-hmm.
the council presentation, and explaining to council, just maybe planting the seed there of like
Yeah.
what this is about, the data that you're trying to collect. And I understand that. And when you have the study session, it makes a lot more sense to have some data around it and then be able to discuss it. But I don't think it would hurt to have an internal conversation, even maybe with Public Works, with Rocco being there, and have a few others, and just have a meeting to talk a little bit through this so that at least City Hall is informed.
Okay.
If-
How do we do that?
I'm happy to help you set that up.
Okay.
I can convene everybody that makes sense to be at the table.
Yeah.
And just kind of vet through it a little bit, because then you have a little bit more support when you
Yeah.
and we have a new newsletter that's going out through the planning department that we could even post some of these things, the
Cool.
survey. We have other avenues, maybe even on the social media page, that we could start to even build some
Just-
awareness
yeah,
around.
I think awareness.
And I was thinking even we could even bring in the communications department a little bit to see if they would be willing to, put some announcements out there about what exactly are these types of things, and
Yeah.
what are other cities doing, or maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily in that format, but
There's been some greats, they could link to there's been some really interesting recent stories talking about how these single-use bans are working, how you see a decrease in litter, storm drains not having to be cleaned out as quickly, so it saves the city's money. So those are things that they could, hey, we're looking.
back it
Yeah.
up, especially.
Like, we're looking at doing
especially
this,
Public
and,
Works.
yeah.
And we might even want to include Craig Palmer in that discussion, since they're so
Yeah.
intimately tied to that too. So, I mean, even to bring in some, I don't know, we can talk through it of who should be at the table, but
Sure.
I think that would be a good, so somewhere in your timeline, maybe we can fit a few of those in before you start.
Could you start
Search.
looking after July 7th?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
week or the next week?
Sure.
I think our next meeting is July 9th. And so if we could get it in that week or the next week, then, because I know that at least one of our committee members is very excited to get out there and start knocking on doors. So I don't really want to tell him he has to wait till August.
No, I mean, I don't
But-
think, having an hour meeting to discuss this.
Oh,
with-
yeah, absolutely.
I think.
I'm just thinking if we can do it one of those 2 weeks, then I can still be like, when we meet on the 9th, I can say, okay, after the 16th, you're free to, and I think our plan was at the next meeting on July 9th that we would be kind of dividing up this list and who's going to go talk to whom. And I can maybe send them, say, you're clear to start knocking on doors after July 16th, when we've talked to the city council, if we can have this meeting, this internal meeting before that.
So either this week of the 2nd or the 7th,
The 7th or the week after that.
or the week 14th, or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 14th, that would make sense. That's 7 plus 7.
Yeah.
So
Thanks, Sam.
if you don't add expanded styrene, could the people who are using the regular styrene then switch to clear clamshells?
They could if it's written, and so this is where the language of any kind of policy, I mean, one of the catches on the bags that some communities I know have experienced is when you define what a plastic bag is, frequently they've just defined like the size of it, not just the length, the width, the height, but the thickness of it, and so then some grocery stores have gotten around it by just using thicker plastic bags, right? And so that, which, you know, kind of gets away from the whole idea. So you have to kind of be aware of possible loopholes and do your best. You know, there's always going to be loopholes though, but yes, that is a loophole. If you're very specific on it as applies to expanded polystyrene, then non-expanded polystyrene would be acceptable.
Right, and
So-
everybody will go run over to that side.
Yeah. So,
And, yeah. Are you
It's
going
a
to
good
be, is
point.
one of the things you're going to do with the interaction be presenting to people some of the options there are for the packaging to help them make them aware of it?
so one of the questions is about forming what did we call it?
Purchasing collective?
A collective a purchasing collective. So that basically then as a collective, they would be looking at options and the costs.
The Council of Governments has access to some purchasing authority through, or some access to the things that are on because I talked to, I forget who it was now, because she's now the head of the planning department at the county, so it's somebody different.
Jessica Haran?
Yeah, but there's somebody else there now.
You mean
At
in
the
the
Council
COG?
of Governments.
Oh, yeah, and the
Yeah,
Council of
I forgot
Governments.
her name.
Yeah.
I have a question about, are you planning on, when you're doing the outreach and engagement, are you planning on presenting this as if it's coming through the EAC as of interest? And
Yeah, we
city?
say that we are a working group of the Environmental Advisory Council thinking about proposing to the city of Erie, to the city council, a policy around this,
Okay,
is the way it's phrased.
okay.
So it's a process, you know, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, kind of thing.
Thank you. Next subcommittee would be, I keep thinking it's the dark sky
It's
/ bird watch, bird glass
Bird and, bird.
initiative.
Yeah.
Do you have an update?
Am I the chair? Who's the chair?
I think
I can give the update,
Yeah,
that's
just say-
fine. If you'd like, or if you want to,
Well,
Freda.
you start.
So we met with, Holly organized, Holly Short from the Bird Observatory, set up a meeting for us to meet with one of their policy technical advisors at Cornell, the one who came and brought the presentation of Lights Out Texas to the Trek Center. And it was a great conversation. She actually was willing to, when we do meet with the businesses in August, early September, she was willing to come and be present during that time. So it was very informative. She helped guide us. She gave us a lot of resources to read and to look at, policy, ordinances, articles, products, really very interesting. So we're still moving forward, and we have some time to plan out how we're gonna, we really need to start making some contacts and figuring out how we're gonna get people to attend. So, yeah, that's really it right now.
Okay.
Also, I talked to Holly, and I've been encouraging her to contact Drew Whiting and Kate of Kate's Building. I don't, Mr. Dudensberg's wife's last name. It's different, but they're both planning big walls of glass. Hers are 3 sides of big walls of glass, and it hasn't been built yet. And she did send them an email. I don't know if they heard back, you know. But I also talked to Chuck Nelson, who he had no idea you could build something into the glass. He, you know, I showed him my homemade paracord thing, and then he said, "Are you going to do that?" "No, but you put it in the glass." And he knows Drew Whiting very well, and encouraged him to talk to him, and he also knows. Anyway, so I'm also kind of pushing a little.
I think one of the other points that the woman from Cornell mentioned was that she tends to come and talk to architects and even developers. She likes to have these conversations with the developers, you know, before a building is built, and what you can do, what mitigation you can do. And so we're going to explore that, you know, have a discussion with those organizations or institutions that have the most collisions, and then potentially stick around for another meeting with architects and developers, which would be great. I mean, some training around that, which she would provide, and she has a whole series that she has already developed. So that's the way of getting in front of it, right? You know,
Right.
is speaking to the people that are directly involved in
That'd be great.
building these glass buildings. So, and then Cooper also, not to put you on the spot, Cooper, but you've also been doing some research around different materials, different mitigation techniques, and there's a tremendous amount of resources out there. So, yeah, we've been doing some reading, really, and research around it.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
My understanding that Hannah's doing some review of the sign ordinance.
Yeah.
And,
Correct.
and I just, one thing, the new video screen at the Country Fair store is, for me, a really good example of what wouldn't meet the requirements of the LED signboard ordinance. That would be extremely visually disturbing to somebody like me and many other people like myself, and that in a public location like Perry Square, it's very difficult. And I don't know whether we have something in the ordinance that covers that, but if not, it ought to.
Thank you. Anything else on the dark skies? All right. Now, not to be that guy, but we're running out of time, so. All right, up next, upcoming events. Date and name only, go.
Oh, we didn't do the LCAP, or we've
Well,
already?
no,
okay.
upcoming events is above
Yeah.
LCAP, so we're on upcoming events.
Oh,
Any upcoming events? Mill Creek Township Zoning Hearing Board meets tonight at 6. I'm gonna do that every month now.
A lot of city events going on,
Yeah.
obviously. Look at the website. I would
Sounds
refer
good.
everyone to the website and to the calendar, because there are so many things going on.
Perfect.
it would be wonderful if there was some other way to help provide water to the public than cases of
All right,
single-use
well,
plastic.
We
bottles.
gotta
Yeah.
get through the items and we can talk about anything remaining. Up next, LCAP updates. You have any updates?
Just the-
Sounds good. Sustainability Coordinator updates is not present. Department of Planning and Neighborhood Resources updates.
I don't have anything specific for this time.
Is that a public newsletter, or it's just for your department?
It's our department newsletter.
It's an internal.
No, it's for the community, but you
Oh.
do have to subscribe to it, yes. I'd be happy to send you the newsletter, yeah. And if anyone else on the, EAC board would like to have the newsletter, I'd be happy to include the EAC board on the newsletter.
yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be-
it's definitely more focused on the neighborhood resource side of the department, but we'll have updates on there as well.
Cool.
Well, tomorrow we'll be at World Refugee Day. We'll have a table there pop up for the Parks and Rec Plan. And we did, through the great help of the International Institute, we were able to get our surveys for the youth translated in Nepalese, Arabic, and Congolese, and Swahili.
Wow.
Yes, so we'll be there, we'll be talking about the parks plan, we have a great map, great images, and we also have prizes for the youth, so, just for the youth survey. So if you can make it down, come down. Hopefully it's not 102 degrees.
It's supposed to be
Supposed to
cooler.
be. Might rain, actually.
Is that, any other updates?
I don't have anything.
All right. We do have a little bit of time. Is there a
Okay,
couple
so-
other items you want to
so
discuss?
Yesterday, there wasn't an official PLUA meeting, but we had a PLUA discussion. And Sarah mentioned some possible grant money, and I brought up the topic of, well, maybe we could give out mosquito dunks. And she didn't understand why anybody needs to have mosquito control if they're not having any standing water, and I don't have any standing water, and I have mosquitoes, and I have mosquito dunks. But anyway, it is something that landscaping chemicals are definitely a problem in our environment, in how it affects birds and insects and people. And possibly letting people learn about mosquito dunks and maybe giving them away is something that we could do as a information project. So I just want to throw that out there. She said there was some money. It's not your city money, it's some other money, but nevertheless, no, it's not your money. Right, no.
It's
but-
Freshwater Future, but we're planning to apply to get funding to buy more kits. And, yes, we already have a plan for what we're
Okay.
planning to apply for.
Nevertheless, it's still something I want to throw out there in general as something, I mean, I don't want people spraying and fogging with mosquito stuff if we could do a more peaceable way of doing it. And just the whole information piece about standing water, yeah. That's environmentally advisory. That's a way to environmentally advise city people.
Nice. Anything else? All right, on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.